Picture this, a really bitter divorce battle. The husband says his wife has been cruel, even threatening him over the phone. And as proof, he's got a single audio CD. That's his smoking gun. But the wife says no way. She claims it's a total fake, a complete fabrication. Now, this one piece of evidence could decide everything. But first, it's got to get past the judge.
So can it? Can a secret recording actually decide a divorce? Let's dive into that because it's the huge question at the center of a fascinating 2007 case from India's Madras High Court. This case really pits our modern technology against a centuries-old rule of evidence that says you have to bring the original, not a copy.
Okay, first things first, let's get into the specifics here. Because this isn't just some dry, dusty legal argument. It's a deeply personal battle where a single piece of digital evidence could literally change two people's lives forever. So on one side, you've got the wife, G. Shyamala Ranjini, and on the other, her husband, M.S. Tamizhnathan. He's the one who filed for divorce, and his whole reason is cruelty. His entire case, pretty much everything, is hanging on his ability to prove it, and he thinks he has the perfect piece of evidence to do just that.
And here it is, the bombshell, the flashpoint of this entire dispute, a simple audio CD. The husband claims he recorded his wife's threatening phone calls right on his cell phone, and then he just copied the audio onto this disc. To him, this is undeniable proof. But for the court, oh, this is a huge problem.
So you might be wondering, why is a simple copy such a big deal? Well, this is where we get into the real nitty-gritty of legal procedure. Because it's not just about what was said on the recording, it's about the nature of the evidence itself. It all comes down to a core legal principle called the best evidence rule. The idea is actually really simple. If you have an original document, or in this case, a recording, you have to bring the original to court, not a copy. And the wife's lawyer? They jump all over this, arguing the CD is just a copy. The real evidence, the cell phone it was recorded on, is nowhere to be seen. And this just perfectly illustrates the deadlock the court was in. The wife's team is arguing, hold on, it's secondary evidence. It could have been tampered with. This violates the best evidence rule. But the husband's team fires right back, saying, look, it's relevant, the voices are authentic, and I have a right to present my case. The trial is at a complete and total standstill. So if you're the judge, what do? I mean, you're stuck. If you rule the CD as inadmissible right now, the husband's entire case might just collapse. But if you let it in, you might be relying on evidence that's, well, totally bogus. The court needed a way to keep the trial moving forward. Right, this is the core of the problem. The whole process is bogged down by this one little CD. How do you press play on the rest of the trial without making a final call on the evidence right here, right now? Well, luckily for the court, they didn't have to invent a solution from scratch. They could turn to a procedural playbook that was already laid down by India's Supreme Court in a landmark case called Bipin Panchal. And this case provided a really clever way out of these kinds of evidentiary traps. And here's how it works. It's actually pretty smart. Instead of stopping the whole trial to argue, the court simply makes a note of the objection. They say, okay, we hear you. Then they mark the evidence as tentatively admitted and they just keep the trial going. The crucial point is the final decision on whether the CD is actually admissible gets kicked down the road to be decided in the final judgment. So, what was the High Court's final call in the case of our contested CD? Well, it turned out to be a decision not about proof, but all about process. And you can see it right there in the judge's own words. The High Court essentially told the trial court, look, you did the right thing, follow that Bipin Panchal playbook, mark the CD tentatively, get on with the trial, and we'll figure out if it's valid at the very end. So, the real takeaway here is that the court masterfully found a way to balance two competing interests. It allowed the husband to present his evidence, which is fair to him, while at the same time fully protecting the wife's right to challenge it later, which is fair to her. It was a real win for judicial efficiency and fairness. Okay, but hold on. That was 2007. The world of electronic evidence has changed dramatically since then. So, why does this case still matter today? Well, this timeline really shows how this case was an important early step on a much longer journey. You see, after 2007, a huge Supreme Court case in 2014 called Anvar PV made the rules much, much stricter. And then even more recently, another case, Vibor Garg, clarified that, yeah, secret spousal recordings can be admissible, but only under very specific conditions. The law has been evolving nonstop. If this case happened today, that husband would face a much higher bar. It's not enough to just produce a CD anymore. No way. You have to prove its authenticity, you have to identify the voices, you have to rule out tampering, and here's the big one. You now need a mandatory certificate under Section 65B of the Evidence Act. That's basically a sworn statement, often from a technical expert, confirming the electronic record is a true and unaltered copy. And that brings us to the big question for our time, doesn't it? The device that's in your pocket right now can be an incredibly powerful evidence-gathering tool. But as this case from 2007 and all the laws that followed it show, the line between admissible proof and a serious violation of privacy is something the courts, and really all of us, are still trying to figure out.